Supposed to look at you, right?
Yeah. All right, what's going on, guys? Thank you for joining me on another podcast. This is episode 83, I believe. I think 82 went up on Tuesday. I'm back with the guest who's been on this podcast most often. I think this is her fourth time or third time on the podcast. And as you guys can see in the title of the video, this one is more for people who are interested, I guess, in law enforcement, but I think a more in-depth viewpoint on what actually a police officer is, and I think this one's going to be more of an interview style, where most of my podcasts are me just ranting about random things and just having conversations with people. I know Taylor and I kind of did a podcast like this a couple episodes ago where we actually had a list of 25 relationship red flags to see in your partner, and we just kind of rambled back and forth. That's going to kind of be like this one, where I have a set list here, which if you guys are on Apple, you can't see this right now. But if you're on YouTube, I do have questions. And actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say that. Bad idea. But so I have a list here where I'm going to ask these questions, and we could get off path. We could start talking about something else. But I do want to have more of an interview style about her occupation, because I think a lot of people who follow me do realize that my parents are police officers, and they do ask questions. And I think there's a lot of disconnect about what a police officer actually is. And I think this is interesting for a lot of people to hear. So awesome. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Once again, is there anything you want to say before we start?
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Cool. Excellent. Move this mic in a little bit closer. There you go. Okay, cool. Excellent. You are a police officer. We do know that much. But what is the official title of your occupation? Yeah, what's the official title of your occupation currently?
So, I'm a police officer. That's a generic term.
Yep.
And I am at a captain's rank. And my duties and assignment currently as a captain is a commander of a detachment.
How many people do you have directly under you?
I have approximately 70.
Excellent. What inspired you to seek this specific career as a police officer?
Well, when I was 20, I knew I wanted to be a police officer by way before I was 20. I would say between 13 and 14, but 16 years old and in high school, I was like, that's going to be my choice.
Gotcha.
But it's simple because I wanted to help people.
Gotcha. And you chose the police officer route over like a firefighter or ambulance because?
I think I've had positive
interactions
and connection with police officers growing up.
Gotcha.
And I looked at them as heroes.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think my generation, anyone between, I would say 22 would be the cutoff point to anywhere above me, older than me. We have this viewpoint of police officers as heroes. You'd be excited if it was career day and your parents were a police officer. But it almost seems like the kids younger nowadays don't have that same perspective as heroes. Would you agree with me with that?
Absolutely.
At least, but for the kids who need police officers, they would be heroes.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, and I find that fascinating. I think that's another reason why I wanted to do this this specific episode. Looking back at your career, is there a different path that you wish you took, or are you happy with all the decisions and rankings that you accomplished to get to essentially the top spot at your detachment?
I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah.
I may have went to.
Keep moving farther from the mic. I keep moving it closer.
Is that better?
Yeah.
If I'd done anything different along the 30 years of my career, I would probably tried to enhance it. Mm-hmm. more with a formal education.
Gotcha. So what education do you have?
High school,
Excellent.
diploma, and approximately 40 to 45 credits of college.
So you think, not that you wish, not that you even regret, but you think that if you did get an associate's degree, you'd be a little bit more satisfied.
I think I would, yeah.
Would have been easier.
I just think it would
Fulfilled you.
reading and learning is always a good thing. So I just think it'd be a little more educated.
Yeah, that can always help. With that being said, is a bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree. Associate's is 2 years. So anything past a bachelor's degree, did you know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she knew that. So anything past 4 years is considered a graduate degree. I think I could be wrong with that.
Yes.
But do you think a bachelor's degree and on is necessary to be a police officer? Or do you think you're okay with associates, even with just a diploma?
Necessary?
Yeah.
No, not necessary.
So the barrier of entry, you don't need a college bachelor's degree.
I think right about now, because of the way high schools are, and the education, I think you're pretty well set. But if you want a further knowledge of the criminal law itself, you don't really necessarily get that in high school. So I think a AA degree would be good.
You know, I've been always fascinated about that because I know to study law, it takes years to interpret law. You got to go 6 years of school. You got to go to law school to interpret law and then press charges and to complete a prison sentence for somebody. Like, I know I've taken a few law classes and there's a lot, and I've taken a lot on civil side, which is different than criminal side. But I've always wondered, do police officers, and please be honest, do police officers have a grasp of the law per se compared to an attorney, or do they just have a grasp of knowing when the law was broken, and they almost like wipe their hands off and they say, now I did my job, now the sentencing and all that good stuff is going to be up to, in this situation, the state attorney, the state prosecutor?
So
do they teach you law?
So, well, you have to go through. You just don't go right out of high school and jump right into a police position. You have to, if you get, you have to go through psychological, physical background. You have to fit. You have to fit the mold that needs to be a police officer. And more than likely, when I say mold, I mean a honest, good-hearted individual. Mm-hmm. Then they put you through a police academy.
And in that police academy, they teach you
law,
the state laws,
yes.
Not in depth, just kind of.
It's college. We get a college degree for it. Yeah, it's yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I got 30 of my college credits from my police academy, which was 6 months.
So that's like
long.
2 semesters of school.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. I've always wondered, like.
And that's business law, that's English, that's math, that's
criminal
law, and some like court classes. Yeah.
Like court processing.
Yes.
Things like that. What skills are needed for your specific position? And are there some skills that are not so obvious that you found useful that you didn't think were going to be useful? So first, skills right off the bat that you must have, and then skills that you were surprised actually helped you.
And you're talking about my current position.
Your current position.
All right. So I am, I run a detachment. I'm the commander of that. So I have 70 people underneath me, which means I have 2 lieutenants and I have 6 sergeants, and I have a series of dispatchers, 6 of them underneath me. I have 4 shifts, police officers, rotating shifts 24/7. We have the day shift, the late shift, the night shift, and a mid shift. And they all have police officers and security officers. So we have sworn personnel underneath me, and I also have civilian personnel underneath me. So the question is, what skills were obvious that I need to hold that all together? Well, I would definitely say is a humble a humble personality, a wanting to succeed not only for myself, but to see others succeed at what they want to succeed at. And usually at a job, they want to be good at what they do.
Yeah.
So I think liking people, got to be a good listener.
Gotcha.
100% have to be a good listener. Because if you don't, if you're busy talking and not listening, you will miss something that could benefit your business, or in my case, my department.
Is the emphasis of being a good listener something that you were surprised on? Like, did that catch you by surprise? Like, I knew I had to listen, but not that much.
I've learned over the years, the more time I take to listen, the better I got at my job. Because you hear things when you just sit back and listen to people, and you connect the dots and you're like, wow.
So there's a direct relationship between listening skills and your capability of being a successful manager.
Successful leader.
Leader, yeah.
I think the word leader and managers, they do the same job, but you can definitely be a manager without being a leader, but you can't be a leader without
being a manager.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At least having those skills.
No, I agree. It's funny because one of my classes, my management class, the professor asked us first thing, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And no one really knew. And I don't know if she really knew. But
a manager just needs to complete tasks.
Yeah.
And
so
make
they check
sure,
out the boxes.
Right. And it doesn't matter.
It needs to get done.
Right. And he or she can do it and get it done, or have someone else do it and get it done. Mm-hmm. But I think a good leader, the bottom line is a good leader cares about their people that they're trying to lead.
Yeah. And that always leads to more success.
Yes.
Were you influenced by any specific person, such as a family, professor, member, or another person that was a police officer? So
growing up, I've always had, it was a good time, right? 70s and 80s were 70s, 80s police officers. You saw them out in the street. You saw them riding and stuff. And of course, when they're with their lights and sirens, I was like, oh, that'd be fun. But going to summer school, like programs and stuff like that in our community, police officers always came out. They were always just hanging out and talking to us, and they weren't scary to me at all. I really enjoyed them. So I know that had a little bit to do with it. But I also had a brother-in-law who was a police officer that were many years older than me, because I come from one of 8 in a family, and my older sister married a District of Columbia, DC police officer. Yeah. And he was always around, and he was always telling nice stories and cool stories, and I loved him. Mm-hmm. He was he's deceased now, but he was definitely someone that I looked up to as a young child and was like, I want to be like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's I feel like that's common for police officers. I don't think, besides my dad, your husband, I don't think most people just fall into a police job.
Other than your father.
Exactly. I think most people have like the magnet, the connection started somewhere. The seed was planted somewhere.
I agree with you.
Which is good, because then the people who are police officers want to be a police officer. So your quality of people who actually care about the job is going to be higher relative to somebody who's like an accountant.
Right.
They needed the job.
Right.
Is it difficult to gain entry into the profession? What's the credentials? Is it just if you pass, like, is it an academy?
It's difficult, and it should be difficult. And the reason why is because just what you said, you don't get in law enforcement just because you need a job.
Yeah.
However, there's plenty of people who have done that, and I've met them along the years, not to mention my husband. And once you're in it, and you find a niche, you can be very successful, even though that wasn't your goal. Mm-hmm. Again, I know plenty of people who are there just because they needed that job as a young adult, and they have developed more than what they've ever thought they would. And they are very good and very successful.
Yeah, it forces you kind of take responsibility and mature.
And if you're the kind of person who likes to learn police work, and along with some other professions, but constant, every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a job that is not really written on paper.
Right. You learn about the job, but you also learn about yourself.
Yeah, there's no handbook.
Right.
To be a police officer.
Right.
Is it? People don't want to hear that question.
What's that?
Because by the way, so before I did this,
I won't answer if they don't want to hear it.
Before we did this interview, I had to do something like this for one of my classes. So I'm trying to stay clear from the questions that are not redundant, but the questions that are boring and you guys don't want to hear. I'm trying to make it a little bit more interesting. What do you find most enjoyable about the job? What do you hate about the job?
So there's nothing about the job that I've ever hated. Nothing. Paperwork sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of paperwork. A lot of people don't think that. A lot of people just think, you're out there doing your thing and all is good, but everything you do in police work, you better be documenting it, especially in today's world of a sue happy country.
Yeah.
So I probably say paperwork is probably the least I like, but the most I like about my job and my occupation, if I could think back from when I first started, is every day is different.
Yeah.
Every day I see somebody different. Every day I go to a different home, meet people, help people. Nothing is routine about being a police officer at all. Now where I'm at, fast forward 30 years later, and I'm a leader and or management position, what I like about it is helping my fellow young officers and benefiting them, maybe showing them some skills and mentoring them to where they can take my place when I go. That's very satisfying.
Yeah, and it's a lot more routine now.
What's that?
Would you say there's a lot more routine, a lot more schedule in your position now?
More scheduled, yes, because there's things that need to get done no matter what.
Mm-hmm. You're not just listening
scheduling,
to
right? Yeah. Different meetings. Trust me, I have my radio on my desk at all times because my people matter to me. Mm-hmm. So it's not very unexpected. Anybody who works with me for any amount of time knows if something goes down, I leave my desk immediately and I'm right out there with them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How do you think, which personality trait do you think helps more with being a police officer? Somebody who is willing to work with others, or somebody who is more successful at being a isolated worker? Like, I guess you can be a very successful security engineer if you're a silent person and you like to work by yourself. It's just you and the computer. Or, like, which side of the coin do you think is more successful? Someone who works independent, or somebody who needs or is very successful at working with other people because they can't really do independent work?
That's a very good question, because being a police officer, you start your day out with your partners. You sit in a room and you do roll call and you have conversation. You might eat a donut or two or some coffee and hang out and get some, shooting some ideas across the table, and you work clearly with people. Mm-hmm. But for the next 8 hours, you jump in your car and that's your office. That becomes your office. So you're really independent, but you still have the social skills to want to be around others.
Gotcha.
Yep. Jump in the car. You got your computer, you got your telephone, you got your radio. You can run tags. You're pretty much that's your office. You're pretty much working independently out of your own office. However, you have the two-way radio, so when you have to go somewhere or respond somewhere, there's always somebody there to help you. So that's a pretty good question.
Yeah, I find that fascinating. Every time you go to a phone, so every time there's a call, do 2 police officers have to answer it?
Certain calls.
Yeah.
Certain calls they'll send 2 together. As a routine, let's say a domestic. Usually when you go into a domestic situation, you already know there's 2 people. So why would you send 1 police with 2 people? So that's one. Fight calls, robbery in progress. There's a lot of different calls that meet the qualifications of sending 2 police officers. However, if there's not 2 police officers, you go alone.
Yeah, lack of resources can suck.
Yes.
I don't know if you would have an answer for this, but it's something that I do think could benefit police officers. Do you think there's any books or do you think there's any books that could help with this profession?
Absolutely.
And you don't have to give specific titles. You can just give like certain categories of books that you think, everything from the self-help books to actually books written about being a police officer.
Absolutely. I think books are incredible benefit when it comes to anything, but in law enforcement, you got to know case law. So the only way you're going to know case law is reading about it. You got to know how our court system works. You learn this stuff in the police academy, but again, you're only in there for 6 months and then you're out like that. So to educate yourself more, there's plenty of books out there. And yes, I would, reading, even how to deal with underprivileged individuals. There's books about that. There's books about leadership. There's books about making yourself more motivated and a better person. All of that will benefit you in life and business for sure.
Yeah, my head, honestly, I go straight to books. For me, books equal culture. And
yes.
I like, for me, I like all these books here, they all kind of represent something different. And they're all not really, they're all real books with real topics. But to me, they're all different authors, especially this book right here, which is all about a police officer. And that book I'm pointing at is Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sure you guys know who he is. Outliers, 10,000 Hours. But all these authors have different perspectives. And now if I meet somebody out on, let's say I'm a cop, and I meet somebody who reminds me a lot of, here's a good example, J.D. Sillinger, who's the crazy dude from Catcher in the Rye. Or if I meet someone that reminds me of David St. Clair, I can kind of almost
relate,
since this picture, this painting that I put in my head of what these people are. Now I just have a larger spectrum of people, and now I can understand the person I'm dealing with better because they share similar characteristics to Robert Sapolsky.
Absolutely.
And you can kind of make the situation a lot easier. That way you can extract information more if you can figure out quickly about what they're interested in, and you can calm them down. And I feel like a lot of part of being a cop is, treating, like, I have a philosophy that you treat everyone like a baby. You let them just get everything out and you listen to them and you make them feel good by talking about their specific topics. And I think if you can understand those topics and understand people better, it allows you to form a bridge a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
Without violence.
Well, we take a lot of culture classes and personality classes and stuff like that. And in service training, because we train 2-3 times a year, not only in defensive tactics and shooting range, but mentally as well.
Yeah. So continuing education is something that if you are a cop, that's weaved into the job.
Yeah.
About 3 times a year, you said?
Absolutely.
And do those 2 or 3 times include firing range?
Yes.
Okay.
And they also include everything. I mean, we have a little any kind of updated laws every October when laws are passed. or dismissed. We get a list of that and go over them and see how that's going to benefit, how that's going to be with our with our police work. Let's use marijuana for instance. 30 years ago when I started, and I had so many lockups with just people with joints or paraphernalia to smoke marijuana. And now case law says and the reason and laws in general, not so much. I'm not even gonna mess with you unless you have 10 ounces or more. And how do I know? I don't carry a scale. So
unless you're a dealer,
right? So those are different things that you learn throughout the year because of in-service training. Laws change, tolerance change. So you have to keep abreast of those.
Just a few more. What is the pay potential for this job spectrum?
Really good.
Starting from being a road officer all the way up to being chief of the department. What is the beginning? What is the ending for, let's just say, when you worked at Prince George's County?
Okay, so 23 years I worked at as a park police officer in Prince George's County, and I started out at $18,500 a year. Yes, I know. And that was in 1990.
More than McDonald's. It's less than McDonald's.
When I left in 2013, I was clearing without overtime $98,000, and so that my benefits and my retirement is all for that.
If I started off now, you'd be making more than $18,000 a year, right? If
you started now, you'd be making anywhere between $48,000 to $55,000 a year to start out.
That seems like
that's equivalent to that $18,500.
It seems like it's equivalent, but plus some.
The plus sum comes because of I would say now you get more leave, you get more benefits, you get dental, so there's, I think, all of that wrapped up with that salary as well. You're pretty set.
Was that offered before?
Yes, but not at the degree it is now.
Yeah, the quality wasn't there.
Right.
Are there other perks such as travel perks that come with being a police officer?
Absolutely.
And meeting interesting people. Do you famous people, celebrities?
I met a few.
Ex-presidents.
I didn't know who I was talking to at the time, but I'll never forget. I don't know the name. I will forget the name, but I remember pulling traffic on Route 1 in front of College Park, and in College Park in front of the college there, University of Maryland. And I mean, this guy was hauling ass on Route 1. If anyone knows Route 1, it's full of lights and pedestrians. It's a college town. So as I pulled this guy over, I noticed he was driving a really, really sweet Porsche. I mean, sweet, low to the ground, T-tops or rag top, I think it was. So as I pull up on him, I wait for my partner to come up before I approach the vehicle. And as I approached up, my partner was like, "You know who that is? You know who that?" And to this day, I don't remember the guy's name because I wasn't really a big basketball fan or whatever, but he was a professional basketball player, and he still got the ticket. But it was nice chatting with him on the side of the road.
Anybody else?
I met ex-President Bill Clinton just a few years ago. I want to say 2 years ago, at my current position, which is Maryland Capitol Police in Annapolis, Maryland. And he was actually coming up to speak with Miller, who is I
don't know what he is. Speaker of the House? Who knows?
Senate.
U.S. Senate?
Yes. Maryland Senate.
Senator from
Oh,
Maryland.
Lordy, I hope he's not watching this, but a great man, by the way. But so he came up to visit him, and I wasn't the federal detail, but I was part of the detail, dignitary detail of his arrival and keeping him safe while he was on our property. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Poor guy. What are opportunities to advance in your career?
Oh,
Are
there's
there a
so
lot?
many. Yeah, there's so many different routes you can go. You can be a street officer and stay on shift work if you like for 23 years and still retire and be successful. Because you become the leader of that squad or that section that you're on. However,
You can come in.
come on in. However, there's other ways you can go. You can become a K-9 officer. Come on by. Come on, Taylor.
Take a jump.
All right, we're almost done. You can become a K-9 officer. You can become a tactical officer. You can ride motorcycle officer, bicycle officer. I rode a horse. I was a mounted officer for a few years. A detective. You can even go into community service. You can make rank, become supervisors of a whole patrol unit. There's quite a bit of advancement and shuffling around if you wanted to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Seems like you become a cop and then you enter that barrier of becoming a cop. And then depending on your personality, then you actually find what you want to do. Where I think like most jobs, you enter the field of a data analysis. And if your personality doesn't fit that and you didn't know that, well, that sucks.
You move on to another job.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it sucks. And there's no advancement. But it seems like if you enter the career as a police officer, you do road work, which you have to do. After 5 years, you realize, I don't like the downtime. I really like the spikes of energy. Then you can possibly go in to like a
special
more tactical unit.
That's
where
right.
You're doing hostages and bomb scares and whatever, stuff like that. You can even move to different federal positions. You can move.
There's more specialty unit
departments.
in police departments than I think the average person knows. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you have like the FBI and you have DEA and you have all these specific units, but SWAT teams are actually
everywhere.
Departments of police officers.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think people think SWAT is like a federal department.
They have their own little thing, but no.
It is like you
every
can have
department
a SWAT force.
every department will have some sort of advanced mobile unit and or SWAT. It all depends on what you call them, But
yeah, like Anne Arundel County has the boat department.
Yes.
And then like state police, Maryland State Police has a helicopter. They have the Black Hawk.
Right.
And all that good stuff. Which I think a lot of people they correlate federal with that. Like they think that you have, if you want to be anything to do with like big drug bust, you have to be FBI or DEA. But that's not the truth. You can assist through a local department.
And most federal agencies must and do work very closely and very well with state entities because
you guys have your
everywhere you get a bus is going to be in some state. So yeah,
and
we
the
work
local
together
community better.
Mm-hmm.
Just probably like the last question, unless I branch off and ask you another one.
Sure,
a shorter one. Probably just over 30. Probably maybe get into 40 minutes. But like I said, I wanted this podcast to be more of you see it and you click on it. And there's a topic there, which is very rare for this podcast. Where do you see this profession in 3 to 5 years? And where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
So I already retired once from law enforcement. I did 23 years in Prince George's County, Park Police, and I retired from there. Thinking that I wanted to go and do something completely different. Thinking that, I'm just going to be a civilian. No guns, no worries, no, just something totally different. And as I was entering that line of work and applying for different jobs, I realized not a lot of people say, all I know is police work. Well, police work is every day. It's being a social worker. It's being a communicator. It's being a teacher. Right. So it wasn't that. What it was is I was still drawn. I still needed satisfaction to help people on a everyday. You call me and I'll help you.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
It's bigger than you.
Yep. So I applied for a sergeant position in another department that was reconstructing at the time and refigurating, and I was very lucky and blessed and got on there. And I've been there for a little bit over 7 years. So I have another 3 years there where I'm fully invested, and I can retire again. So you asked where to see me in 5 years. Hopefully still working or just about to retire for real this time. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you plan to get another job after that, or
maybe a part-time job or a volunteer? I'd like
selling
to
rocks downtown Annapolis.
Yeah, right.
Sound like leashes for dogs.
Just something I would like to say. Some people say, "Oh, I want to retire and do something I want to do." Well, I've been very blessed to do what I wanted to do and get paid for it for 30 years. So, but I know there's a time when you have to leave. Mm-hmm. I know there's a time where you have to pass that torch to the younger individuals, and I'm constantly thinking about that, even though I'm 3-4 years off. Mm-hmm. And when I say thinking about that, there's some guys and gals at my current department that could totally take this stick and run with it, and I want to make sure they're able to do that. I really do. I like mentoring them and guiding them and just giving them. Some people have all the potential in the world. They just need that opportunity.
Yeah, confidence boost.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share? Say? Any finishing remarks?
I think, and this is not a recruiting video. Yeah. But
is that illegal? You're not allowed to do that?
Oh, it's a good thing if I did. But I want people to go, young kids. I love the college aspects of, you come out of high school, 17, 18, then you do the next 3-4 years in college. And I think that's a very important thing. But look at law enforcement as not just your traditional job. Look at it to an opportunity where you can be anything, right? Anything you want to do within those walls.
You heard it here. Scoop College. Become a
cop. No.
Anything else?
Stay in school.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Good. Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys are on YouTube, please go ahead, subscribe, like it, comment on it. Tell your friends and family about the podcast, The Michael Lab Show. Just Google that and you'll find it. Leave it a 5-star rating. Write it a review. I think we're closing in on 50 reviews on Apple. That helps tremendously. And keep liking all the podcasts on YouTube. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys in episode 83.